really today's topic I'm really excited about because it's not difficult to do. It's actually pretty easy to do, and it's going to have a powerful effect for you, whether you're in a job search, you're in a prospective client hunt, or you just want to make an impact within your culture, your community, within your companies, or your target companies, or within the work that you do. And I'm really excited about today's LinkedIn Live Q&A. Now, we do these every single Wednesday at noon live, and let's go ahead and just jump into our topic for today. Today is how to receive LinkedIn recommendations, more LinkedIn recommendations. That's what today's topic is. How can you receive more LinkedIn recommendations to really be able to lean into relationships you have, clients you served, companies you work for, bosses you worked under, leaders you worked under, and have them be able to call out in you what you've done best for them and how you have just really made an impact on their company or on people's lives within the organization that you served within. And I think it's really important to highlight these things, no matter if you're in a job search, like I said earlier, or in a new client search, or if you just want to make an impact and make the right connections on LinkedIn. People like to be connected with those who are making a difference. Would you say that about yourself? Don't you want to be in a circle of influence or be an influencer in a circle of connections where impact is being made, the ball is being moved down the field, lives are being changed, revenues being gained, profits are being made, and we're just having fun, right? And so really, I think it's important for you to be able to showcase what you do best on LinkedIn. That's my heart, to help you seek to serve those who need most what you do best. That's my passion. That's my purpose. That's my platform here within LinkedIn. And there's a lot of other LinkedIn coaches and teachers and trainers, and they do a great job. But this foundation that I share is how can you seek to serve those who need most what you do best. And you got to showcase that value on LinkedIn. Not only for the computers that are scanning the platform, but also for the human beings, the people that are living and breathing, actually pressing the buttons to be able to hire someone like you, to be able to employ someone like you, to be able to leverage someone's skill sets like yours. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How you can use recommendations to accomplish that. That's the whole point. So let's get into some little housekeeping here. You can always email me each and every week your LinkedIn questions. I'd be glad to share answers with you on the live, but most of the time you'll get an email from me first, and then I'll use it on the live because you know what? Other people have questions, the same questions, just like you. And it's important. This is a way to share. This is a way to invest in others by asking your question. It really will make a difference for you because you'll also be serving others at the same time as being able to be served yourself. Pretty cool stuff there. So ask your question, email me at brian@brianhorvath.com. I'll be glad to answer it on one of the shows. Also, what we have is our just multiple opportunities and channels to be able to watch these LinkedIn Lives. But I think one of my favorite ones is YouTube. And because after I'm done with this specific live, I'll cut it down and put the training on live for you to watch later. But one of the ways that you can get notified of when these trainings come out each and every Wednesday or Thursday after I'm done editing them is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can subscribe by going to brianhorvath.com/YouTube, brianhorvath.com/YouTube. Also, there are multiple places for you to catch these lives. One is on, of course, the YouTube channel I just mentioned. The other is on my Facebook page at facebook.com/the Brian Horvath, and also on my Facebook free private group called Living on Purpose with Brian Horvath. You can catch those there as well. And I encourage you to join the group. It's where people like you and people like me are focusing on living on purpose, and we encourage one another, equip one another, and as well as I place special content on there just for group members each and every week. So go ahead and get on to that. Now, without any further ado, today's topic is, like I said, how to receive more LinkedIn recommendations. How to receive more LinkedIn recommendations is things that you can use to be able to move your career down the field, advance the ball down the court, and all that good stuff. And what I'm going to do is go over some of the things that will help you get recommendations, and some of the things that will help you use recommendations even beyond what might seem possible, even beyond what might seem like a default within LinkedIn's infrastructure. So let's go ahead and do that. What should you do? Whom should you ask to recommend you? So if you're asking me the question, whom should we be asking for folks to recommend you? Who is it? Take a guess. Put them in the comments. Let me know what you think. Give me some feedback on whom should you be asking right now. If you were to have to get off of this LinkedIn Live today, whom would you go and ask right away? Well, I want to help you brainstorm on that. And what I want you to think about is where. First question is where, right? Where did you work? Where did you have influence? Where did you serve people? Those are the kind of people and those circles of influences you had, those prior opportunities. That's where you want to be able to start. And if I think the best thing to do is just go ahead and grab a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, whatever you're writing utensil, your iPad, your notes, wherever you take your notes on, and just start thinking about these questions and just brainstorm. Get off the computer, get off the laptop if you can. Really, I suggest a paper and pencil and just start brainstorming of who can I ask within certain companies, organizations that I've worked for, or certain groups I was a part of, certain communities I was engaged in. Where are those people at that I would ask for recommendations? Where are they residing, or where did I first meet them? Where did I have interaction with them? Okay, so start there. The second place you can go or think about, second question is why? Why would they recommend you? Why would they recommend you? How do they know you? What can you give them a hint about, how they interacted with you and what they might say? So we're going to go ahead and go through a little bit of a live demo later. I have someone that I'm going to ask on LinkedIn myself to recommend me for some work I did with them and for them, even as early as yesterday. So we're going to show you how to do some of that. We're actually applying what we're talking about here, not just in theory, but actually put it to work. So where did you work with them? Where did you communicate with them? Where did you serve them? Were they a client? Were they a customer? Were they an employee? Things like that. Why? And then why? Why would they recommend you? What are some things that you did for them that would cause them to write something nice about you? And who, I kind of tipped my hat on a little bit already, is who? Who would you ask to write the recommendation for you or provide you a recommendation on LinkedIn? Well, it's pretty simple after we think about the where, is the who. Would it be your boss? Would it be a teammate or a colleague in general? Would it be maybe a boss's boss even? Maybe it wasn't necessarily an org chart, kind of direct org chart connection, but it was someone you had a relationship with, right? Definitely clients, customers, those you served internally or externally within your company, okay? Those are people that you'd want to ask. I'm trying to think of some other folks. Who would you might want to ask that you serve with, maybe in a nonprofit or maybe in a volunteer role? Like I have a couple coaches I've coached with over the years in baseball. They're on LinkedIn and they're in a profession that would, make sense for them to write a recommendation for me. Great. But what about if we did something extracurricular? Maybe there's things there that they're going to talk about that show a little bit more about who you are, not just what you've done in a job, but who you are in a greater width and depth and flow of your life experiences. So those are some places too that you can think about as well. None of us should have a shortage of recommendations on our LinkedIn profile. There are plenty of places and plenty of things you've done and people you've done those things with or for that are great sources of recommendations for you on LinkedIn. So let's go to the next one here. The next one is what? What specifically did you do? Now it ties a little bit into why they would recommend you, but what specifically did you do for them or with them? Especially if you're thinking about years in the past, let's make sure that we remind them, right, of what you worked with them on or what you did with them. And maybe even where you're going next. Okay, so that why and what can kind of tie in together. So you might be going, hey, Joe, we connected some years ago on a work project and I'm asking for a recommendation for you on LinkedIn because I'm currently in a job search and I really like to leverage recommendations to be able to get that interview or to be able to get that next interview or actually get that job to help me get over the finish line. A recommendation can really help. And let me go back a little bit and just say that these recommendations are third-party endorsements for you. I should have kicked that off in the beginning. But recommendations, why do you even want? They're third-party endorsements for you that can speak volumes beyond what you can speak about yourself. Obviously, and hopefully, you're going to say some great things about yourself, right? You're going to have to shine and showcase when you're in a job search or if you're trying to connect with your next client, you want to use these third-party endorsements to be able to leverage that work you put in for that client, for that employer, so that you can gain the next opportunity. And so you may have to, when you're communicating with folks out there, you may have to remind them of the why you're asking and what you did together, but also the reason is why you're asking. That could affect their writing, that could affect what they say and how they say it and how quickly they respond. So just some things to think about as you go about getting more recommendations. Now, here's a fun little thing I put together as I was thinking through, well, yeah, great, you can have recommendations, but where do you put them? Well, obviously, LinkedIn has a specific hardwired general default placement for these recommendations, but there are other places where you can use these and use them effectively. Okay, so let's talk about those. How should I use my recommendations? This is kind of thinking outside the box here a little bit, and maybe, like I said, we're not just getting a recommendation to have it be in our profile. And I'll show you where exactly that is later if you haven't seen it before and you don't have any just yet. We're going to go through a demo on how to actually ask for one, right? But there are other ways for you to be able to use this recommendation to really help you gain the client, make the right connection, get the next interview, actually get hired for the job or maybe the contract work that you're trying to accomplish or how you're using LinkedIn. All right, so let's talk about that. How should I use my recommendations? Now, obviously, you're going to use them within the LinkedIn platform itself. LinkedIn's algorithms look for keywords, right? Constantly scanning keywords within your profile. So if I'm a recruiter or a headhunter or a hiring manager or someone on LinkedIn trying to network and I'm doing a search, I'm going to use keywords to be able to cast those out into LinkedIn, the lake of LinkedIn or LinkedIn Lake, to hopefully pull back the right connections based on the keywords that I'm searching for. Let's think of keywords as a piece of bait, right? You put your bait on your hook, you're throwing that keyword out, and what you want to get in return is the right fish that connects with those keywords, that connects with that bait. Well, LinkedIn uses algorithms to be able to compute that to get the right search results when you and I are searching or when a headhunter or a recruiter is searching. LinkedIn is communicating keywords that match. Well, part of that scan happens within also your recommendations or skills and endorsements. All that is scanned by the algorithm. And it's a pretty good place to be able to have that bait be pulled out of the water so the right connections are introduced via the search results. But in addition to that, we'll talk a little bit more, it's also human beings like you and I that are actually going through the search, right? We're actually going to value recommendations, and it's beyond the algorithm itself, but the algorithm is a huge opportunity for you to be found by the right people when they're searching for folks with you and you have the right keywords. And we talk about that in other of these LinkedIn Lives as well, so you can go back and look at those. I'll try to drop a link in the show notes for this. Your resume. You can use the recommendation in your resume. Well, how do you mean that, Brian? Well, basically, you can take a bite-sized chunk or excerpt from that LinkedIn recommendation, or maybe the whole thing, to be able to use in your resume. Maybe it's a section you put about third-party endorsements or what others have said about me, or even in your summary or your about section of your resume up top, you really want to show what people have said about you, about the work that you've done for them, and allow that to be on your resume, not only to be scanned by an application tracking system when you submit for a job search, but also to be able to be used by human beings when they're looking at it, right? And also for you to be able to use your resume in an effective way and remember what people have said about you. It'll be right there in your resume for you to read and present as well, which we'll talk about here next. So your cover letter, same thing. That even could be a better place to really highlight how you stand out in a cover letter, because it's a brief document and little nuggets that get scanned. One of the things that can be scanned would be your results of a recommendation that was provided for you that really can get people to looking onto your resume. Okay, but another way to use all of that is within an interview. Why not in an interview take that nugget or take those recommendations, whether it's on your LinkedIn profile or not, but specifically today we're talking about LinkedIn. Why not take that and use that in an interview to make sure that you are hitting a home run? Maybe it's something through when someone says, tell me about what you did at ABC company. or XYZ company, right? You can also use that nugget to go, here's what people in that company said about me. Here's what clients said about me in that sales role I had. Here's what internally people said, how I was a good culture fit, and so on and so forth. Of course, you can use other nuggets that people have said about you that may not be on LinkedIn, but specifically a couple good things to you, or a couple ways to use that in an interview is, like I just said, it can be an intro, how you start with people, it can be an exit, it can be, and Mr. Interviewer, one last thing I want to share with you. Here's a couple things that people said about me, about the work I've done throughout my career. Just thought you should know that. It could also be used, I'm thinking out loud here, it could be used on a thank you card, or it could be used on a follow-up email. Oh, and one more nugget I want to share with you, Mr. Interviewer or Mrs. Interviewer, is this, and here's the recommendation, that you use from LinkedIn. So of course they can go and look at it on LinkedIn as well if they wanted to, because you can't insert this recommendation on LinkedIn yourself. It has to come from somebody else, and then you have to approve it. So you can't go editing your own profile, dropping in recommendations that you created for yourself. So again, another solid way or reason why a third-party endorsement will really take you a long way. Got it? Good. Okay, so another way you can use a recommendation is other social media. Why not drop it into a social media description? Especially if you're on the job hunt and using social media in your job search. Make that social media, those little nuggets, you can put about or your little bio in social media. If there's an opportunity, take an excerpt from one of those recommendations where it makes sense and put it into your profile, into your social media description. Another way is to link people with the URL in your social media description so they can go and see those recommendations there as well. And another little nugget is to find a cheap way, inexpensive way, maybe in a free way, to create your own job search webpage. Or if you're just starting your company, a basic webpage like a Linktree or something like a Linktree. I don't use Linktree myself, but I use Kajabi for my business. And Kajabi has a kind of a little default, template for like a Linktree. And Linktree is a basic website that's great on mobile that gives links out to other websites. So what you can do with that is, if you're in a job search, you can create one of those accounts and try to find a free one if you can. But Linktree, I think, is an inexpensive paid one that allows you to drop little bullets or little buttons and a little picture, a little description, little buttons that can link out to your resume. It can link out to your LinkedIn profile. It can link out to any portfolio you may have, depending on the kind of company that you work for, the kind of business that you're in. So, as well as contact information for folks to get a hold of you right away. Really making it easy for folks to find you, identify that you're a good fit for their company. Because you're about seeking to serve what you do best with those who need it the most, right? Got it? Good. So a little bonus extra there for you. But other social media is a great place to use some of these things that LinkedIn has collected for you via recommendations. Also, your personal website, which is a great dovetail into what I just said about the Linktree. So I was a little ahead of myself there. And then number 7 is your email signature. Again, not putting long-winded stuff or a big block of content in your email signature, but at your email signature, when you say gratefully yours or sincerely yours, or I say with purpose, then you put your name, you might put your LinkedIn URL or whatever your logo is, depending on how in-depth you want to go, how technical you want to get. But one of the ways you can really show value and highlight what others have said about you is putting a little italicized quote what others have said about you and the work that you do. So just a thought, another way to use this LinkedIn recommendation piece. Got it? Cool. So if we have any comments, go ahead and put those in the comments. I'd love to hear, guys, from you looking at them as well. If you have any questions, this is a Q&A as well. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me or go ahead and drop them in the comments, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Twitter or on Facebook. So I'd love to hear your questions and your comments about what you think. So I got a couple hot tips for you there. So as we talked about, why and how and where and what you should get with your recommendations and how you can even use them beyond LinkedIn itself, here's a hot tip for you. I got a couple hot tips. One, I actually thought about since we've already been recording, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you right now. You want to write this down. Consider writing your recommendation for somebody and ask them to approve it. Okay? And let me back up. I had a pastor that I worked for years ago when I was in church world, and I really did a lot with Pastor Craig, and we made a lot of impact together. We had a lot of fun together, right? He hired me for the position that I worked at for about 10 years. And after I left, I said, I'm starting my own business, and I'd really like to get your recommendation about how we work together and how I was able to impact people with you and make a difference in people's lives and serve people. Would you be willing to recommend me, or can I include a testimonial, if you will, third-party endorsement in my website? And I said, I'll even write it for you. Would you be good with that? And he said, yes. He's a busy guy. And so if you're looking for a CEO or a C-suite person or a manager of a lot of people or a small business owner, an entrepreneur, and running 1,000 miles a minute, consider writing their recommendation for them and asking for their approval to post it somewhere beyond LinkedIn. Now I say beyond LinkedIn because unfortunately, or fortunately, I actually think fortunately, on LinkedIn, they have to write it themselves and you have to approve it. Just so it shows like the integrity of they actually did it. And it wasn't you just adding it to your profile saying what you wanted to say, right? But still writing it for them, and then all they have to do is cut and paste and drop it in, and then plus a couple buttons. That can make it really swift for you to get your recommendation done quickly, as well as being able to use it effectively throughout all these ways we've talked about in today's training. So that's just a thought. So that's a hot tip that I thought about while we were even going through this live. A couple other hot tips is to be able to use this endorsement, this recommendation, within other sections of your LinkedIn profile as well. Now, like I said earlier, the LinkedIn recommendations is hardwired, hard-coded into your profile now, but what you can do is take those excerpts, like you do in social media, like you do with your resume, like you do with a cover letter or an email signature, and be able to actually put those into other places within your LinkedIn profile, namely, specifically, your summary. When you're summarizing about your career history and the work that you've done, one of the cool things you can do is put that summary or put that recommendation in the summary. And then quote that person and even say full recommendation below, whatever the case may be. Another way to do it is to take your bulky recommendations and make a little section. You'll see it even on my LinkedIn profile if you go there and say what others have said about me. And just take little keywords, little nuggets you think stand out, and just put them in a list. That's another way to do it. It's kind of a summary of your recommendations, right? So depending where you're at in your job search or your client search or whatever you're doing to make the right connections in your networking, think about these kinds of ways. Another one I think is really smart is within the experience it applies to. So if Joe Smith recommended you for the work you did as a vice president of, accounting, or you were a CFO or whatever, a CTO, or you were a IT director or analyst, whatever, go ahead and put that recommendation that applies to that job and actually put it into that experience set within there. That way it's just readable right there out of the gate. It's nested in as opposed to going all the way down the line. So remember, you can put that in yourself. Just excerpt that, take what you want, and drop it into that experience section and make it stand out. So good stuff. So those are some hot tips for you guys. Another hot tip is to use screenshots when you can. Use screenshots when you can. Those three things you see in front of you are screenshots that I took today of my recommendations that are currently within my recommendation section of my LinkedIn profile. Use those where you can. Obviously, you can use them. You can use them in your featured section within LinkedIn. You may not even have content that you've created or portfolio that you've had, but you can create. You can create a featured section by adding sections right under your headline there when you're in your edit mode of your LinkedIn profile, and you can add images. So consider maybe taking some screenshots of those images, and maybe they're endorsements you got other places beyond LinkedIn. That could be a good place for that. But you can also use screenshots of your LinkedIn recommendations and other places where you may be marketing, or maybe you drop it into a cover letter. What that's doing is showing that you didn't just make it up. You actually took a screenshot of a place where it's hardwired into your profile and you're sharing it that way. It's really a great way to add what's called social proof. In marketing terms, social proof. Okay, so a couple of cool hot tips there for us as well. Now, as we land this plan in today's training, if we have any questions, go ahead and fire them off. We'll get to them. And I just want to give you a little bit of demo here to show you how we can actually put this to work, how you can actually go about using this yourself. I'm going to get a drink of water here, but I'm right within my own LinkedIn profile. Okay. And what I'm going to do is go down or click, on my profile itself. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the page. Real quick, if you have a Mac, you can use Command up or down to go to the top or to the bottom of your web page. You can also use, I think it might be for Windows, Control up or down. Recommendations are near the bottom. Here we go. So I've received 9 recently and given 10. We haven't even talked about giving them. So that's a whole nother training. But let me go ahead and ask for a recommendation. Now, yesterday, had the awesome opportunity to serve a event company called Elite Events and Rentals here in Tampa, Florida. And I got to serve the CEO and his team in giving them personal finance presentation. Basically, he wants to help his team be the best they can be with their money in 2022, and they hired me to come in and encourage, equip, and educate folks on how to take next steps being a successful money manager, right? A personal finance money manager. And so Brandon was the guy. He's the CEO and the owner of Elite Events and Rentals. And I'm going to go ahead and click on his profile and ask him to recommend me. Now, first what it's going to do is ask, how do you know Brandon? Well, that's important, right? Brandon managed me. Brandon reported directly to me. No, Brandon was a client of mine, is what I'm going to go with. Okay. I'm also a client of Brandon's, which is cool. So, what position at the time did I serve him, or what was I connected with him on that would make sense for this recommendation? Now, you can use LinkedIn's personalized messages here, right? But I'm not. I mean, that's nice, but I want to be more specific. So I'm going to say, hi, Brandon. Thanks so much. Now, notice you have 3,000 characters down here, and you don't want me to worry anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and write this message here and just show you a little bit of what I do based on what we talked about earlier and using that as a template to write this personalized message. Thanks so much for having me in to speak to your team yesterday. I really enjoyed meeting the crew that makes everything work for Elite Events. Okay, this is sincere, right? This is really what was neat. I got to meet staff I wouldn't have met otherwise that I've been doing this training. These are the behind the scenes guys and gals that make this business go. And Brandon was really appreciative of that and really explained that and really, I think, added value to them and really encouraged them yesterday, not only by having me as the trainer, of course, but really just using it as a team meeting get together to say, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Without you, I couldn't do this. And I was excited to be a part of that. So what I'm going to say next is, as I build my business, it is recommendations from people like you, if I can type, that help me connect with new opportunities. And of course, I'm going to use my spell checker here. I use Grammarly. If you wouldn't mind, would you write a recommendation for me so that so that potential clients could see it when they need service like I provided you yesterday? Okay. Now, I think that's wordy. So what I'm going to say is, if you wouldn't mind, would you write a recommendation for me? Question mark. Now I'm going to put, this helps me connect with potential clients that would benefit from a session like we had yesterday. So just give a little background, okay? Now I know Brandon well, so I don't have to get too and it was just recent, so I don't have to remind him of what we did or why we did or all that kind of stuff. It was just yesterday. But still, I want to get this in the hopper now so that I can make it top of mind for him and be able to seize another opportunity or another recommendation opportunity. I know that you are busy. I'm going to say highly productive. I hate that word busy, even though I use it myself. I know that you're highly productive and time is limited. If you would like, I can write this recommendation for you, gain your approval, and you can drop it into LinkedIn. Would that work? Sincerely, Brian. Okay, so something like that. Again, you be you. You do you, right? But this is a nice template and framework. And also you can pull, there we go. You can pull this little handle down so you can see it. Now, if you don't want to lose this, go ahead and copy it. And I use things like what's called Text Expander. Let's see here. Text Expander is I forget what it's called. It was a text expander, but there's a specific word I'm looking for that I can't remember what it's called. A text emulator? No, not emulator. Anyway, it's a text expander. So if you type like a little nugget of a phrase, it will expand the rest of the text. You don't have to type this every time over and over. So once you get working with a nice personalized template, this will make it a lot easier just to customize it just a little bit more every time you do this, but you at least don't have to start from zero every time. So let's read this one more time. Hi, Brandon. Thanks so much for having me in to speak to your team yesterday. I really enjoyed meeting the crew that makes everything work for elite events. As I build my business, it is recommendations from people like you that help me connect with new opportunities. If you wouldn't mind, would you write a recommendation for me? I'm going to let that stand out. Okay, so I'm going to drop this down a little bit. I can't bold it. Now, if I really wanted to be really goofy, I could star it. I'm going to do that just to show you an idea. This helps me connect with potential clients that would benefit from a session like we had yesterday. I know that you're highly productive and time is limited. If you would like, I can write this recommendation for you, gain your approval, and you can drop it into LinkedIn or to your LinkedIn. You can say, I'm just trying to think out loud here, yourself. Would that work? Okay. Sincerely, Brian. So I think we're good to go. No spelling issues. And I'm going to go ahead and click send. So there we go. And then you'll see at the bottom left hand of the screen that your request has been sent. So that's our little demo there to be able to help you. Now, if I went to write a recommendation, I'm going to give you a, oh boy, let's just Jerome Bettis. All right, let's go with Jerome Bettis. No, I don't know if I can because I'm not directly connected to him. I'm going to go ahead and put my wife in there. I'm going to show you real quick, guys, maybe as a teaser for another LinkedIn Live where you can actually recommend somebody. So I'm going to go command down, go to the bottom of my wife's profile, and towards the bottom, I should say. Well, there she is. Recommendations, received and given. So I can go ahead and recommend Becky by clicking there, and I can do the similar thing what we did when I requested, and then write the recommendation, click send, and then she'd have to approve it. But right there, you can write recommendations by going to someone's profile, scrolling down, finding that recommendation sections, and recommending. You can also ask for a recommendation too, like I showed you already, and boom, there you go. Okay. All right, so that's how you do it. That's our little demo for today. But if we go back to our presentation here, then you'll see that I have something I really want you to avoid. I really want you to avoid quid pro quo, which means if you do that for me, I'll do that for you, right? Something for something. I would really encourage you to avoid that. Now, a quid pro quo is you being, how do I put it, intentional about going, hey, John, I'll write you one if you write me one. Got it? Got it. If it happens naturally, so be it. That's happened for me. I've written people some recommendations and they return the blessing. I'm not saying you want to do that when it's quid pro quo on purpose. That kind of just takes away the integrity, the ethics of it, and it really kind of dilutes the effectiveness. Now, could you do it? Sure, get away with it? Sure. May there be a time to do it and where it makes sense? Absolutely. I can't think of it right now, but I would really encourage you not to do that as a kind of a strategy. All right. So you really want to avoid that. Guys, this has been exciting. We've talked about a lot, right? We've talked about a lot today with LinkedIn. I'm going to do a lot more for you if you let me. And I want to encourage you to put your name on the wait list for the Ultimate LinkedIn Profile. It's my digital course that I'm launching on 2/22/22. That's just fun to say. It's so much more fun to say than February 22nd, 2022. But we're going to launch this digital course. It's going to be mega modules. It's my signature course of the Ultimate LinkedIn Profile. You can take your LinkedIn profile no matter where it's at today and make it the ultimate profile. The Master Workday, strong like bull profile, right? The best of the best. Showcasing what you do best so you can seek to serve those who need it the most. Showcasing your value, really standing out from the crowd and all that good stuff. You can jump on the wait list by going to brianhorvath.com/waitlist. brianhorvath.com/waitlist. Now, I didn't make a slide for this, but one other thing you can do is a new new quick start guide I created for LinkedIn. So how you can really get a quick start with your LinkedIn profile, no matter, again, if you're starting today for the first time, you've been on it for 20 years or 10 years, whatever the case may be. I don't care where you start. I don't care where you're at. That's where you want to go. Then you want to go to brianhorvath.com/LinkedIn-quick-start, and you can get my free LinkedIn quick start guide there. Okay. So really excited to have you guys on today's LinkedIn Live Q&A. Remember, every single week we do this at Wednesday at noon, 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And in between now and then, or if you're watching this on YouTube later, at a later date, email me your questions. I thrive on it. It's what makes these LinkedIn Live Q&As come alive, is the questions that you have, how to better use the platform to make the right connections on LinkedIn. Email me at brian@brianhorvath.com. That's my direct email, goes right to me. Be glad to serve you there. And also tune in next week, either on YouTube, on Facebook. If you like to have a group that you're going to be encouraged by in this new year, go ahead and consider joining my Living on Purpose with Brian Horvath Facebook group. You can go to brianhorvath.com/groups/the Brian Horvath and get that there. You can also watch us on Twitter as well. So good stuff. Good stuff. Glad to have you here. Again, one more time, join the waitlist today for the Ultimate LinkedIn Profile. And until next time, folks, we will see you next week. Go get them out there. I appreciate you. Bless you, and really encourage you to make a difference today. Seek to serve, y'all.